How's it going, Startup Nation? Thank you so much for having us. You see, we're doing it a little different today. We're actually going to start a new way to engage with you called TalkStartup. So as you can see, I am not alone. I have my lovely wife, Kendra Lawson.
Hi, I'm here to prove I exist.
Well, look, we just kind of wanted to create a new way to engage with you on the Startup Life podcast. We've been doing the show for about, 3 years now? Yeah. About 3 years now. And so it's been really amazing. The show's been growing. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. So we're going to kind of go into it a little bit. You see, we kind of playing around with some stuff a little bit. We got some graphics and stuff kind of going here and stuff like that. But you may be wondering, what is TalkStartup? So basically, it's kind of like a spinoff of the Startup Life, because a lot of times me and Kendra, we have like these very long conversations. We'll read an article or see a news feed or something like that, and it sparks like a really long discussion. And so he decided to kind of bring that to you. So what do you think, Kendra? You think that's a good idea?
I don't know. That's what we're doing.
So basically, the thing is that we've always kind of figured out is that a lot of stuff that, when it comes to pop culture, when it comes to whatever, business touches those things. And so, we really want to kind of bring that to you, just kind of have just an open discussion. We want to have you be involved in the conversation and stuff like that. So,
let me just say, this is going to get random.
It's going to get very random. For sure. But, by all means, like this video, share this video, let us know what you think, comment, stuff like that. We're just going to have a conversation like we would like any other day, but we're just going to put it on video, on wax, I guess, if you will. So we're going to do this on Facebook Live. We're going to upload it later to YouTube. So hi, my YouTube people looking at the replay and stuff like that. We love you. We welcome you. Welcome to Startup Nation. And stuff like that. So I think we're just going to, no. We got to pay some bills. We want to thank our lovely sponsor, Target. That's why you see that big, shiny logo there in the bottom left-hand corner. Kendra got that really nice water bottle there from Target and stuff like that.
You still jealous?
I might be a little jealous.
God, I'm going to go get you one today.
It is Target Fridays.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We talk about having Target Fridays all the time. So, there's that. But it's all good, though. We also want to thank one of our brand new sponsors, DR and Associates. Danielle does amazing work for anybody who wants to be an influencer, you want to write a book, you want to make an impact, you're a nonprofit, trying to start your business yourself, Danielle is an amazing person to know. And we have her contact information on our website in the show notes, for you to kind of check her out and stuff like that. So, but that's what Talk Startup is. It's really just a spinoff of the startup life. We want to give a shout out to my man, my homie, co-founder of the Bench Podcast Network, Ron Brooks. We wanted to make sure that we go on after him, so we ain't trying to compete and all that other crap. But we wanted to make sure that we compliment the Mind Your Business podcast, and I think we're going to do that. So this show is, even though the startup life itself, it really is kind of like a loose, energetic show. This is supposed to be even more loose, more energetic, and a little bit more relaxed or whatever, right? And so we'll talk about the startup life a little bit later, what's going on with it and things of that nature. So I guess we need to get into our first topic. Unless there's something you want to say. I don't want to,
I'm good. That was a hell of an introduction, I guess.
Well, I'm long-winded. That's why I got the show in.
Yeah, just get ready.
Anyway.
All right. I guess our first topic is something I saw on social media. I gotta give a shout out to my millennial friends who I follow on Facebook, because they always kind of keep me up to date and interested. And this topic is kind of interesting, Dominic, because I feel like it highlights the difference between us as like Zennials and then millennials, right?
Right.
And like so sometimes it's like, okay, I'm feeling now, I understand where you're coming from, and then other times I'm just like, I don't know. So I guess roll the clip and then we'll come back and discuss it.
All right, let's do it.
You're bound to find some millennials on vacation. Even though they're strapped for cash, millennials prefer experiences over things, according to an Eventbrite survey. But the fancy trips don't add up when you realize most millennials only have an average net worth of around $8,000, according to a study by accounting giant Deloitte. That means millennials are worse off financially than previous generations. The Washington Post says you can blame student loans, rising rents, and higher healthcare costs. It's time to peel back those social media filters. This is the average millennial. Speaking of money, the typical millennial has less than $5,000 in their savings account. Take it from a survey by Insider and Morning Consult. It's hard to save when you're paying off student loans. Business Insider says nearly 45% of millennials have student loan debt. Student Loan Hero reports millennials in the graduating class of 2018 got a diploma and an average debt of around $29,800. And their salaries aren't helping close that gap any faster. A Smart Asset study found the average millennial makes a little over $35,000 a year. Adjusted for inflation, the annual salary of a millennial today is about 20% lower than the average salary of a baby boomer, their parents at the same age. This could be why millennials still hit up their parents for cash. A 2018 Country Financial Security Index report showed 53% of Americans ages 21 to 37 got money from a family member since turning 21. Millennials are also delaying life milestones. The head honcho of Zillow says millennials are renting longer and buying later.
So that's it.
All right.
Kind of dive into it. Why did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, okay. So at first I was kind of thinking, it's like, okay, a lot of stuff makes sense. Like if you consider the psychology of it, right? Then you understand after watching the bubble burst or coming along after the tech burst, after understanding that Social Security is in jeopardy and the future of it is uncertain at best. Like just a lot of things that you can just think of play into the generational kind of psychology of it. Then it makes sense where it's like, you know what, I'm gonna live now while I'm young. If I got it, I spend it. It's like the Ariana Grande song, right? 7 Rings.
Oh God.
I'm
so tired of this song.
That's Zoe's favorite song.
I know it is, but still.
But anyway, and so I was thinking about it, and on a lot of levels, I'm like, you know what, go for it, and that's great. But then part of me always thinks about the opposite, right? You follow everything through to its conclusion, and you just kind of think about like, there's gonna be a whole bunch of broke ass brown like like 40 years, right?
So they're going to be able to get that $2 bill.
No, like you used to get like little, go visit grandma. She's, she's talking about what she got on her pocketbook or going on her Brazier. I don't know what the little grandma's gonna say. It's like, hey babe, I got a picture of me in Cabo somewhere. I mean, I don't know what else you're gonna do. So I just think that's kind of interesting, just also the juxtaposition, right? So right now we're in this whole okay boomer thing, and part of that is this sort of divisiveness against boomers for having, the generation before them technically for having so many kids that it did things like destroy Social Security and have all these effects. But while there are going to be less millennials, like on average, people have less kids, right? And so one of two things is true. Either you're waiting to inherit, because I did read an article about that, because there are less millennials and less of the new generations, that they stand to inherit more money because there's less, people to pass on to. But if you're waiting on that, then the interesting thing is that a lot of people who have amassed large sums of wealth are no longer leaving it to their descendants, right?
Right. When I saw this article, then I saw the video and stuff like that, it just reminded me that millennials really are all about experiences over money.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if you're playing the game of life, it's like those life points, right?
Right.
Well,
that means okay, so then if you play the game of life, the board game, then millennials lose. I mean, like you said, you're putting off so many things. Like you're not buying a house.
Right.
You're having kids a lot later, which, I can't really, I did too. Which, I guess it gives you the opportunity, it gives you the freedom to do some of these things, especially.
Right.
We have a lot of friends, I think, in the age group, and they're just like randomly on a Friday night at 8:30, like, hey, can you meet us here at 9? There's like, nah, fam.
Can't do it, fam. I'm tired.
That's not how this works. Or, you know what? Your microphones and stuff, they're too good. I need to wear like more quiet accessories or something. Right? Can y'all hear that? Yeah, I think it's loud.
I don't know. It's just weird. Like I said, they I keep saying they when it's weird, right? It's like before this whole Zennial thing came up, we were either very young Gen Xers or very old millennials.
Right.
So I find myself kind of like getting frustrated with both of them.
I don't get frustrated. I just feel like I just pick and choose then.
Fair enough.
Like technology, take it. Entitlement,
yeah.
Like, I don't know. I just kind of pick and choose then. I like to walk that line and that sort of thing. I feel like it's a lot less pigeonhole. And I honestly think that millennials really shouldn't be pigeonholed either.
That's true.
There's a lot of fiscal responsibility. And then I think ultimately going on vacation is just a life choice. Mm-hmm. And, I understand if you're willing to live without certain things. Honestly, there's a huge comparison between that and just like being entrepreneurial.
Right.
And honestly, maybe that's the reason why
so
many younger people now, was something like 40%
of Gen Z, 45%, which is the largest of any generation, have entrepreneurial aspirations. And we're actually going to talk about that in the next segment a little bit. But they have entrepreneurial aspirations. And I think, and millennials have this too, probably not in larger space because they're older, right? But I think a lot of that's like, we lived through the market crash. We lived through the bubble bursting. We lived through 2008. We lived through 9/11. We've seen a lot of different things.
Living through some things.
Look, like, hey, it's not the show for that, Kendra, okay?
Carry on.
But I think that's why they value. I keep saying that's why we value experiences more and stuff like that. And also, it's like that Jim Carrey video. It's like you can get fired, doing something you hate. You might as well do what you love. And so going on vacay every other month or every 2 months, or whatever, is something you want to do. You might as well go ahead and pursue that. But to be fair, millennials are very. They got Groupon. They know how to find a deal, to be fair.
That's true.
We had a friend recently who just went to Dubai off Groupon.
Yeah, that's true.
So like 20 years ago, you ain't pulling that off.
Right.
In the mid-20s.
So I guess they have all those websites now where you can like find a last minute really cheap deal.
That's
so
true.
It's like,
That's true.
You know what? If you have the freedom you have a little bit of, I'm going to say, disposable income, then, sure, why not? You jump on a plane and be somewhere else. And you know what? Honestly, I have to say, I did my version of that in my 20s when I was in college. I went to Xavier, ASU. Shout out to all HBCUs out there. Don't hate.
I ain't gonna lie, I do kind of hate
because y'all steps and stuff was off beating stuff at your school.
Oh, God. Okay, whatever.
Okay. Anyway, so I went to Xavier, and clearly New Orleans is a party town, that sort of thing. But it's also like literally 5 to 6 hours from everywhere. So I mean, I was in Atlanta and in Florida and in Houston, and just so I get it, I really do.
Got you.
And then, honestly, maybe it'll all work out. Maybe the entrepreneurship is going to lead to less need for retirement funds and that sort of thing because you're millionaires. But I will just say to my millennial friends out there, just really think about setting long-term goals. I mean, and whatever your goals are, that is what they are. I think I would hate to have a conversation with my grandchild that goes completely like you wouldn't expect, right? Where the kid is something, it's like, so you didn't say nothing? It's like, I saved these photos, it's just like, and then honestly, they're not even like actual photos, right? Like you gotta go through your old iPhone 6.
Is it kind of like Kanye's first album, like with the degrees or whatever?
Right, yeah.
You're like, that's what you're passing down?
Yeah, pretty much.
It reminds me, because we were talking about this, my cousin or whatever, really talking to his dad. My uncle was like, there's no college. Like, bro, did you see whatever put us in position? We live in that college. Exactly. Right. Watching too much Who's the Boss or something, so, which is a very old statement, by the way.
I think a lot of times, it has the potential to make future generations self-made.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but to be fair though, like one of the things that people who are in the investment world, and my friend Marcus Young probably can agree with this, is that like millennials, have more time to go invest, right? Right, like mid-20s, early 30s. You have more time to invest later on, or if you started now, you have more time to like accrue stuff like that, take risks and stuff like that, as opposed to being older. So maybe that's what millennials are doing. I just worry
about that old like children's story about the grasshopper and the ant. Is that it, right?
Yeah, you gotta enlighten me on that one.
I'm sure I'm fucking this up like completely. Okay, so there's a story about like I want to say. The grasshopper is like storing up leaves or something for the winter, and then the ant is like, I'll get to it. And then all I'm saying is you don't want your grandkids in the future to be like, bro, I don't have no leaves for you. That sort of thing. And in a real way, honestly, we have to just understand that this isn't a conversation or a debate between like living life to the fullest and hoarding stuff away. This really is about building foundations for wealth for future generations. It has the potential to even the playing field, especially if some wealthier people are starting not to pass on some of their millions and millions of dollars, whatever. It has the potential to sort of even the playing field for future generations if we start thinking early. I'm not going to say, earlier, but just at least early, okay?
Right.
About how we're going to save and what we want to be able to pass on. And, memories are great things to pass on, but, and honestly, this freedom and some of the character traits of this generation, I think are great to pass on, but, a little money, not a bad thing.
That's true. But, you definitely want to have find the balance is basically, which is ultimately what you want to do.
True.
Put a little bit away, put a few of your nuts away, but also live life to the fullest. Because, they always say youth is wasted on the young. So millennials that feel like they're
turning that on its head.
Absolutely. But let us know in the comments, what do you think? Do you think millennials take too many vacations, or do you feel like they should be out here living their best life? Leave some comments there. Down below.
Also, let me know, is 2020 still going to be like a hot girl summer? Because I need to start preparing for that. I was talking about last year.
You don't let your daughter see your hot girl summer, man?
I mean, I don't know.
Next topic.
All right, we're ready.
All right. So one of the things that we were talking about, a few days ago is about how we've seen this article about more and more kids are wanting to be YouTubers as opposed to astronauts, right?
Right.
You know,
even though it's like astronauts was a weird thing to pick to compare it to, right?
How so?
Cause like I don't even know what NASA doing right now. I mean, we hitchhiking and stuff like.
Look, man, you bringing up old stuff right now.
All right, I guess you be in the Space Force, so.
You see where she leading, right? I'm leading. That's neither here nor there.
All right, I'm just saying. I was, saying maybe the kids could aspire to, military service and being an astronaut by joining the U.S. Space Force.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Well, anyway, that brought up a conversation about, this young man, Ryan Kajee, who made $26 million on YouTube. So it's like when you making, that type of money, 7 figures on YouTube, you kind of see why a kid want to be a YouTuber as opposed to astronaut. How much astronauts make, you think?
Not $26 million.
That's true.
I mean, you get to go to space though, but we were just talking about experiences now. What value can you put? What's the value on going to space? I don't know. This is
right.
But
the thing is, though, is like the reason I wanted to talk about this with you because it kind of sparked a debate on social media and stuff like that. As far as like, ain't no way my kid gonna be a YouTuber, which to me, right? No, those are always fun, right? But to be fair, though, like $26 million, and this kid Ryan over there is the exception. Clearly, is not the norm, right?
You know what I'll say on this, which is interesting.
What's
as
that?
A parent, you know how they say, and this has been debunked, so don't take this as the gospel, but like 100 hours of practice kind of makes you an expert on something,
right?
Like Zoe has to have like a PhD in social media, like in YouTube or something, right?
Right.
And so it's like I can kind of understand. It's like if your kids are going to spend hours and hours.
When teachers go and get trained, what is it called?
Like professional development.
Yeah, professional development. What's the credits they earn?
Oh, the CEU.
So she got YouTube CEU.
Zoe got about $1,000 like YouTube CEU. That's just for this year, because they expire.
Right.
You gotta go back and get them.
Right.
I don't know. But either way, it's like if she's gonna spend so much time on it, you've never thought about like, you know what? She can take some of that sass and you know what I'm saying? She can make her own college fund.
That's true.
Then we can go on vacation.
That's true. Yeah, Zoe got other issues though. Zoe, I don't know.
She got other stuff she want to do.
She got other stuff she want to do. One day she want to be a bat. Another day she want to be a YouTuber. It's like
That's true.
Then another day she want to be a unicorn. So it's kind of like.
Well, she on a whole existential, kick now. She said last night she said she was writing letters to God. She wanted to deliver them by 2:00 today.
Why?
Because FedEx. See. You've made children believe you can deliver stuff anywhere by 2:00 the next day.
So.
It's just not. That's not how this works.
Right.
Oh wait, you know what? We gotta get some shout outs. We got some people listening here talking. Hey Pam. Millicent, what's up, girl? What she say?
Vacay all day. That's because Millicent got that big money. That's what it is. Millicent got that big money. That's why she's saying vacay all day. He has toys in Walmart. He does.
I know. And you know what? This actually is one of the things I think we both love about millennials and what's
Gen Z.
Gen Z.
Yeah.
Right? Is like this whole idea of how conscious they are about a brand, about the fact that you
true.
really can't
That
build
is
like a
very
brand around
true.
anything. I think I've been fascinated to watch that. Like just the confidence that comes along with it. I'm not hating on it.
It's funny you mention it because in one of the past episodes of the Startup Life, we carry her. Go check it out on all major platforms, Startup Life Podcast. But she talked about, in her book about how there were so many things like entrepreneurial ventures and branding and stuff like that, that the Gen X and Boomers and even some of the greatest generation can learn from millennials and Gen Z when it comes to branding and stuff like that. So it's funny you mentioned that.
I mean, I think one of the biggest personality things is the idea of like self-sacrifice, and we're exactly that, yes, right? And so it's like younger generations, just understand is like you took away this sort of like the idea that self-interest is a dirty word, right?
Right.
And it's like, what's wrong with that?
That's true. That's true. But like I said, it really did spark like a debate or whatever. Like, some parents like, no, my kid not gonna come to YouTube. You gonna hit them books and this, that, and the other.
Right.
And then some people was kind of like, well, I don't know. Like true enough, my kid's not gonna make $26 million, or maybe he will. I don't know. But at the very least, we're starting to see that like YouTube is a viable proof of concept to make an income, make a living, stuff like that. One of the things, we have a friend who's a law professor, right? She talks about her brother. Her brother quit school after I think his freshman year or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And basically he quit school, became a YouTuber. He has like 500,000 subs. And now he makes more than his sister as a law professor, right? So it's kind of like, and then you start to see, what a lot of YouTubers do, whether it be toys and stuff like that, they do like video game streaming, and that's becoming a popular thing. So
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like they can get upset about it, but it really just proves as a nation, and
right.
Those parents who are saying not my child are probably still like on YouTube contributing to somebody else's like coffers, right?
Right.
And so it's like, I thought it was interesting. This thing is like, okay, so we value entertainment. Like clearly, entertainment is the thing.
Right.
And so being creative, I talk about this when I train kids and train other people, is that creativity is the currency of the future. It just is. Like with so much stuff
being automated, like that, yeah.
It's like this is where the world's going, and so. I don't know. It's an interesting thing, and I think there is some give and take as a parent. I just think about having my daughter on display from such an early age. Business child stars didn't help the situation. I mean, like, it's kind of hurt the overall argument here.
That's true. So, you need to get a Vanessa Hudgens when you get a child above.
It's clearly it's a toss up.
Or a Demi Lovato and stuff like that. Not that they're not all successful people.
Right. But just that, you
issues,
understand. Right? And I think I've heard, and they would tell you that there are these issues that come along with stardom at such a young age. Mm-hmm. And so again, I always at least like to discuss or consider the sides of things.
That's true.
But going back to like literally a YouTuber and, I don't know, like, those videos that Zoe watches of the girls eating?
Oh, the ASMR.
Yeah. And it's like, so you literally can make millions of dollars like eating for a living.
Right.
And then you have lawyers. And then it brings up, I think, something we might have cut for time, and you can stop maybe reasons later, but how it's like for 15, right?
Right.
So you want to make $15 an hour, and that's great. But then at the same time, it's like I've been on teacher sites where it's like literally you're tutoring and kind of helping like the nation's future learn stuff,
right.
And they make $15 an hour, and so it's like it's just kind of interesting how in so many subtle ways we're still reinforcing for kids what's important, and how you're going to be able to make money.
Right. I think it's also important. This whole concept kind of reminds entrepreneurs and future entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs since 2020, and there's probably a lot of newly minted entrepreneurs out there right now.
Milton says those ASMR videos, they are weird, but it's it's kind of creepy.
But they get like 26 million views on YouTube.
I know. It's $26 million.
But what I was about to say real quick is like, I think it's important that things evolve, right? Like, what was cool in 20, 30 years ago, being an astronaut, it's changed to now to where YouTubing is being cool. Video game streaming is cool and stuff like that. So I think it's important, Startup Nation, that when you're thinking about your business and you're thinking about, with the entrepreneurial mindset, always be willing to have an open mind and stuff like that. Not to say that the parents who say that my kid gonna hit them books is wrong. It's just that, just have to be open-minded to stuff like that, I think.
I think that while things change, they also, and people say the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Right.
I think there's also a reality that things are cyclical, right?
That is very
and so
true.
that now you can see like STEM becoming a part of the public consciousness. And we haven't really gotten it into every school and some places where it really, really needs to be. Mm-hmm. So, I know a lot of Black kids and Black uncles and stuff who, if there were STEM programs available, I mean, I don't know what they would have done.
Right.
Like, if you think of every single person in your life that's like, man, all you gotta do is, and then they just like take some tape and then fix some stuff together. It's like, man, that's, if we had the opportunities like that, imagine how much industry and how much, how many entrepreneurs there would be. Right. So I think for me personally, my thing is more so like to stay the balance, to make sure kids have a good foundation in all areas. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just put a nerdy spin.
Well, I got my R2D2 shirt on, so it's like,
True, fair enough.
Right. But one of the when you talk about STEM and stuff like that, and one of the things we were going to talk about that we kind of scrapped at the last minute, that now Google has the ability to detect breast cancer before doctors now. So it's just kind of like one of those things where it's like, I
didn't read that one. I mean, I feel like, is it literally Google Analytics? They find patterns of people, or it's like I don't know, maybe you're like me and you every time you sneeze or something, you like go online and
it could be
symptoms, diseases associated with things. Like, are people just really feeding in information about that helps them form a diagnosis, or like how does that work?
I'm pretty sure it's like a closed study. They're trying to see, whatever the case may be. But it's just going to show about what we were talking about earlier about automation and STEM or whatever, right?
That's true.
It's that you have Watson, which is a supercomputer.
Right. I know for a fact, they were doing machines that can perform surgery with like way more precision, right?
Right.
But the interesting thing is, for all my Luddites or people who are afraid of technology out here, is like they're still manned and they're still operated, overseen by doctors. But it creates it really does reduce or eliminate the human element, right?
That's
The era of any kind of shaky hands or something like that.
Right.
I just think it's pretty cool.
Millicent said it's ASMR is listening to people smack. That's literally all it is.
Yeah, smack.
Which is funny. It's funny. Talk about things above. That's what we used to get on people. Like when we were kids, like, why you smacking? Why you smacking?
Man, I still have a sister who's just like, she can't stand here with you.
But now she's being a YouTube star. She wanted to be.
No, she couldn't. She was. You said it's like she wouldn't hear her own self. She was saying,
I don't know. Just put a microphone up to her mouth and like just do the whole new ASMR.
I don't think so. I think.
Don't work.
I think. Well, I don't know. I would say I think I would probably be too self-conscious. I'm like on the video, but trying to chew quietly. It's like, and then you'd be like concerned. I can't eat certain. No.
Gotcha.
I don't think so.
Gotcha. All right.
Well, I'm too self-conscious. I just do that.
Fair enough. Well, if you have any comments, let us know in the comment section, what you feel about, YouTube versus, becoming an astronaut and things of that nature. And like and share this video as well. So I think we're going to get into one of our mini segment. What's new? All this is new.
That's right. So I guess Dominic is going to share a little bit about his side hustle he's been doing.
Right. Let me cue it up here. So basically, I've been doing some ride sharing, and come up. Oh, it's messing up. That's the thing about being on live. We had these moments, right? Give me just a second.
It's a shame. It was a nice graphic.
It was a nice graphic.
You worked hard on that.
I did work hard on that. Why is it playing me like that? Why is it playing me like that? They don't want me to be great.
Oh, so I've been working on this like ed tech ideas that moving into the year, and that's actually that's crazy enough. One of the biggest complaints that teachers have, and why they don't really fully adopt new technology, is just like it's not reliable. And then you go up there in front of teenagers and middle schoolers, and some stuff don't go wrong, they gonna clown you, bro. They be like, "Bro, broke." I can't imagine. I don't know.
Some real Memphis stuff,
right? Some real Memphis. Oh, well, I don't know where if you're somewhere else, it might sound different. Okay, but if you in Memphis and your kids be like, "What's up, man?" This is like shut it all down.
Yeah,
they can write an essay.
Every time I hear "What's up, man," my PTSD flares up from middle school, because I'm like, "Oh man, I gotta get up out of here, man. They for rock me." But anyway, so
I've been started doing ride sharing, right? Like picking up something. It's a great way to make side hustle, stuff like that. But you have interesting conversations, talking to people and stuff like that.
All right, here comes the real hustle. Is like, he gets to meet all these interesting people.
That's true. Oh, that's too loud. There we go. Okay. My music wasn't working right. There we go. So basically, I have a question I want to ask you, and I want to ask Startup Nation as well. So basically, ooh, you showing your age. You showing your age right now. Anyway, so I've been doing some ride sharing, and I'm having an issue. It's an issue with customer service. I want to ask you something to kind of get your input on what I should do, what I should not do, whatever the case might be. So basically, my lovely wife had the idea of like having snacks in the car for riders and stuff like that. Trying to go,
a little
extraordinary. Anyway, but to get those 5-star ratings, get some tips and stuff like that. But basically, more so, do above and beyond when it comes to customer service, which all entrepreneurs are trying to do anyway. But I have snacks, but I also have phone chargers, right? I have one for iPhone and one for Android, right? But I'm having an issue, and that issue is people keep taking the iPhone charger. And so it's kind of like...
Okay, first of all, it's like, when I got in the car, you was like, help myself. And I was like, brother, I sure need to try my joint.
You need to help yourself to the snacks, not the charger.
Were you specific?
I was specific about the snacks. I said, you can have anything in the snack basket that you want.
What if the cord mistakenly, like the tip of the cord was in the snack basket?
Not possible, because the thing is, the basket's on the seat and the charger's like on the floor, and it's like cupped into that little pocket behind the passenger seat. That's where it is. So you can't mistake where it is. It's like, I'm sorry, you can't. No, that don't fly. That dog don't hunt.
I mean, what exactly is your question here?
Okay, so
I mean, at the very least, like, we were on Facebook. Somebody was like, we're in Memphis,
right?
And they were like, we might rob a little bit. Like, we might steal a little bit, this. So why are you even tripping, man?
Well,
what's the question?
The question is this, right? So it's like, I want to keep, A-level, A1 customer service for everybody who comes in the car, right? But I don't want to have to keep replacing iPhone chargers. I've replaced 2 of them already, right? And the funny thing is, like, they only steal the iPhone charger. They never take the Android charger.
Okay, I'm sorry, Android people out here. I really think it is, and I think we had this conversation a while back, which is like, you have to like different perspectives, right? So to me, obviously, or to you, $10 for a charging cable isn't that much, right? You can just go to Walgreens, you just go wherever and get a charging cable. But it's like, and this is Apple's fault. I blame Apple, even though I'm an Apple person. I love Apple products. I don't want to get in trouble or anything here, and all my stuff stopped working. But so let me just say that. But the chargers are trash. Like I just like, you would have to admit
the iPhone chargers.
Yes, like they're garbage. They're garbage. Dominic.
I don't know about that.
Our Apple chargers garbage.
I wouldn't say that. I'm sorry.
It's like,
Team Apple. I keep doing
I'm literally watching this and reading the comments from the iPad. That's not the point, though. The point is, are the chargers garbage? Do they fray? And I they have even the newer versions. Like, they're better, but I mean, they're still trash.
I mean, they might fray.
Yeah, they trash. They trash.
I ain't gonna say they trash. That's a bit
much.
much.
Milton said go to this hustle game right here.
Okay.
They said go to Five Below. Okay, and I'm assuming it costs $5 or less there. Okay.
But you said the charger goes out fast, though.
They all go out fast. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't gotta be able to pause stealing stuff.
That's true.
Well, okay, here's my question. This is a real customer service test, Dominic.
Why you gotta say my name like Startup Nation? Anytime my wife says my name like that, I know something's coming. So
I'm just asking a question. It's a query, okay? My question is, what would you do if you saw the person getting out of the car?
Hey.
And like, you like, hey, motherfucker. Like, do you pull out your Samuel L. voice, or do you just like, from a customer service standpoint, you just let them have it?
No,
see, I think that's the question.
No, I wouldn't. No, it don't be all like that. It's just like, look. It's like true enough. I'm like, hey, come on, man. Like, don't do that. Let me get the charger back, right?
Now you gonna put some whole. What's the stuff?
They don't get that 1-star for sure. They'll get reported. Then then they gonna have to then the rideshare company is gonna have to send me some money for that, right?
Right.
But even though remember we tried that once before, and it was like, what they say?
The rideshare company was like, I'm gonna let y'all handle it. What are you doing? I'm sure they didn't mean to. I mean, you could. I mean, and that's what I assumed you would do. Honestly, just be like, take the whole. The approach of just like, hey, like, I think you got my core by mistake,
Right.
Which is still embarrassing because you called me out on it or whatever. So but you can't give me a 1-star, so I'm gonna give you a 1-star. Like if I didn't take it, like, my bad fam, and then give it back to you. Then
how is it all my bad fams in your pocket though?
Cause so I can just pretend that I took it by mistake, or maybe they did take it by mistake.
Well, apparently they're hot commodities, right? Because and I guess that's what Millicent was saying. Millicent said wrap the cord and duct tape and no one was taking. I don't know.
That's what I said. Or if you want to like make it a little, neater.
I guess so.
There's a console. I was like, just wrap it in the console. So at least they're trying to take it. It's gonna make a whole commotion.
But here's my thing. And Startup Nation help you out a little bit. It's more so like finding the balance. Like one thing we always talk about, like I don't want to sacrifice.
That's true.
Customer service
and experience. I mean, you ever been in a restaurant where they like down their table goes to the floor? Are they still in the restroom from football tonight?
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't bring up old stuff. I'm still traumatized by that day.
Okay, well then, you don't both in your jam.
They only did that because the merchandise was like secured to the rack.
I don't know, man. I feel like people. This is everywhere. Let me be clear here. I feel like people just, they're still winning stuff. But that's not what we're talking about. The point is, do you sacrifice like customer experience, even like the flow and ambiance of your place, but for safety? I mean,
exactly, and that's where I'm trying to find the because I don't want to be like the two people, because it's two people now, mess it up for everybody else. Because one of the things that people always say, also with the snacks as well, it's like, wow, man, nobody's ever had snacks in the car before. Wow, this is the first time somebody had chargers. Not only chargers, but one for each, popular phone, right? And so it's like I get more. It's like the upside is way more than the chargers being stolen. Right?
Yeah, I think that's a product of, and I guess we can bring this back to business. It's just like, I think you should, old school mentality, right? It's just like do anything that you do it to the fullest, right?
Yeah,
and so it's
and that's why I keep putting charges in.
Right. So it's like I can look at Uber as, all right, let me just go hit up some money real quick so I can make this last $15 I need to go on vacation.
For sure. Pay off that group up.
Right. Or it's like, it's an opportunity to make money whenever I need to, and pretty much get like I think a really, really quick return or payout on it.
That's true.
But it's all about whether I see it as like, what I see it as. It could be a quick like hustle up on some money, or it's like I can take it seriously. It's like there's this one time like you were telling me that you took an Uber and the guy was like a limo driver. Like he got out, like had the umbrella, like opened the doors and everything. Right. It's like my dude took it seriously.
Right.
And it's like when I looked it up, because I'm like a Pinterest princess, y'all can see the situation.
No. See this whole crafting table back here.
It's like this crafting table has benefited you.
I didn't say it didn't benefit me. I'm just saying it's a whole crafting table back here.
But when I looked on Pinterest for ideas about ride sharing type of like things that you can do to kind of make it nicer, I mean, there's a lot deeper you can go down this rabbit hole. Like, I mean, some people construct a whole little like consoles, gaming systems in the backseat, everything.
True, I've seen
and so, I think even that is sort of a balance between trust in your consumers, your customers, and trying to make the experience nice for them. But clearly, I don't know, you probably take the TV out at night.
That's true. That's true. So Startup Nation, let us know. Should I sacrifice, that customer experience, set up reservation, or should I just keep replacing the charges? Millicent actually go to Five Below and get the cheap charge because they go out quick. So that might be an option as well. So this is Rideshare Chronicles. So every time we do this, we'll have a different. I'll have a different story from my rideshare experiences, whether it be we definitely got to talk about that snack tip thing. Like that, there's some psychology there that is just fascinating for me. So, let us know in the comments what you think about all of that for sure. So we want to move on to something that's always a very contentious topic as well. We talk about minimum wage and stuff like that. We're in an election cycle now, so it's coming up as political football. Yes, go vote.
I need y'all to vote.
Whoever you vote for, make sure you just vote. Well, Kendra says otherwise. I just want you to go do your civic duty.
You vote for?
Right. Anyway, so recently in Seattle, I say recently, but it was like 2014 when they put this in the law.
I guess not.
I guess not. I got you.
Technology age. 6 months ago is not recent.
That's fair.
Go on.
So in 2014, Seattle passed a minimum wage law where they were going to gradually raise their minimum wage up to $15.
That's right. But the recent thing is the results of that.
Yes. So we found a CNBC clip that we want to share with you, and so we'll kind of check it out, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
At Dick's Drive-In, the average employee is in their 20s and turnover is low. Thanks to investments the company makes in workers, like offering paid time off and 401ks, as well as 100% employer-paid health insurance. The benefits are available to workers regardless of the number of hours they work.
We invest a lot in our employees. We expect a lot for them, but we invest a lot for them.
The company already pays above minimum wage, with its Seattle location starting at $17 and $18 an hour. But as wages increased at restaurants across the city over the last few years, labor costs also rose at Dick's. In fact, the company had to raise its prices for the first time in its history based on labor costs alone. In the past, food costs had been the driving factor for price hikes. As workers took home more in their paychecks, President Jasmine Donovan said an interesting trend emerged.
Our employees are voluntarily choosing fewer hours at the higher wage rate, which means I have more employees working part-time hours than I used to. And it also is harder to get people to pick up hours when people are sick or need to change their schedule for school or family reasons.
Seattle's economy has been growing for years. Since 2015, the number of restaurants is up 5%, with annual sales increasing 20% over the same period. And in that time, Seattle's job growth has outpaced the state of Washington as a whole. Growth in weekly hours was slightly lower than the state's average. The city's population has increased by 13%, but so too has homelessness by 11%. For some workers, the wage hikes have been life-changing. When Martin Johnson first arrived in Seattle in 2015, he was camping along Lake Washington. Today, he works 3 minimum wage jobs: as a temporary cook working at the city's stadiums on game days, as a janitor at Costco, and as a handyman in his own business. Johnson, who advocated for higher pay at minimum wage jobs, now rents a monthly room outside of the city in Kent. An improvement, but living in the city is out of reach.
I mean, when you're down there, instead of being paid $9 an hour, you're getting $15 an hour to do the same work. You feel better about yourself. You feel appreciated. You're getting paid more. That way you can take care of your family more.
But for some business owners, the wage hikes impacts were not as expected. Matthew Dillon, James Beard Award-winning chef and owner of Sitka and Spruce, closed his doors as the year ended. While labor costs played into the decision, as he pays above minimum wage, so too did his rent, which is nearly $16,000 per month, including taxes and fees, and his ability to pass on costs to customers. When his lease came up, he said he decided it was time to move on.
the wages are going up at this level, the prices of food is going up, my property taxes that I have to pay for the landlord are going up, my rent is going up, my staff or staff that was here that feels like, well, I can't be in the city anymore, so I need to move on. So you have to find someone to replace me, and that's really hard. So the cost of that, just working through that as a business owner, is going up.
The changing labor dynamics have forced other business owners to get creative. The wage hike had Chad McKay reevaluate his business model altogether. He's long paid above minimum wage in the front and back of house due to competition for talent in the Seattle market.
We projected how the minimum wage increases, the loss of what would be considered a tip credit, realized that we'd be functionally bankrupt if you fast forward in 7 years.
But instead of closing his doors, the CEO of Fire and Vine Hospitality nearly doubled in size, thanks to moving to a commission model, adding a 20% service charge for diners and paying his servers a commission based on sales. Today, the company has 600 employees and 12 locations. Front of house servers in Seattle can now pull in $70 or more an hour. His dishwashers make between $17 and $20 an hour.
I will give you, I think, the most simple answer is once we went to that model, I have never worried about minimum wage since. And I'm not sure there's a restaurateur in Washington State or in California or New York that can say that. We left behind minimum wage as an issue for our company.
Kate Rogers, CNBC Business News, Seattle.
So there you have it. Very interesting kind of, juxtapositions there between two different restaurateurs or business owners. Why are you looking like that?
It's also very predictable.
Okay, why you say that?
I mean, at the very least, it's like, I think one of the guys was saying, like, because he's personally benefited this, is like, it makes you feel better. And I think that's the thing, right?
Gotcha.
Because when people are asking for this, it's like, once again, every decision you make, you should play it out 7 years.
Driving
right? Mm-hmm. And so 7 to 10 years from now, we'll be talking about how $15 an hour isn't enough to live off of.
Right.
Because two sort of competing things kind of happen simultaneously, right? Mm-hmm. So you get this wage increase, right? So immediately what happens is that companies basically say, well, that means the market can bear this cost, right? Which is a little bit higher. But the other thing is, and you see this in Seattle, kind of happen as a consequence, is that all of the other things kind of follow with that, right? Mm-hmm. So we talk about this like a lot, right? If you make $15 an hour, right? The cost of a gallon of milk is going to even out. It's going to end up being the same percentage of your income that it has always been, roughly. So if a gallon of milk costs $3 and something right now, then it's going to cost $5.50, a little bit later. It always balances out. I mean, the truth is, those positions are designed as part of a social structure.
That's true.
And as long as there's any idea of a minimum wage, there's always going to be this disparity. So we can keep moving the number or moving the goalposts how we want to. It just means that things are just going to become more expensive. It will not fundamentally change your standard of living. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's interesting though how, like I said, we had the two restaurateurs and entrepreneurs and stuff like that because, like I said, we are in an election cycle and certain parties always talk about, looking out for the small business owner and stuff like that. And clearly you have the same circumstance but two different outcomes or whatever, right? So I'm curious how the election cycle and the political football and the talking points are kind of change since we're now in this arena of, $15 an hour. But, going back to what we were saying earlier, also, this kind of plays into it as well, is how, we may start to see where, well, you know what, if it goes up to $15 an hour, I'm just going to get some robots. I'm going to get my automate stuff or whatever, right? So that's also issue.
There's always going to be, from a business standpoint, a cost benefit analysis.
Absolutely.
Right? And so, of course, there's always an element of it that you want to do these things that are good, like, social for social reasons, to be a part of like certain solutions, that sort of thing. But at the same time, it is also going to come down to your bottom line, because I can't help anybody if I go out and be like that chef can't employ anybody now that he's closing his doors.
Right.
So there's always this balancing act. And I think just a lot of times you don't see it on both ends. I mean, and from, we've talked about this, like you'll have people, I have friends who are great, and I'm glad there are more people starting to be interested in, in starting their own business. They come to me for like business writing, because I'm a G with it.
She is a G with it.
But the thing is like sometimes when you want to do work, and especially if it's work that, is creative and you don't necessarily see it, it's not like labor, it's not like some other things, they don't value that either. And it's like, in those circumstances, a lot of times people are trying to pay me less than $15 an hour.
That's true.
And those services are very, very expensive. And, and you want to bring it within the realm of like what people can afford. You want to like help people out. It's part of our mission as a company, definitely.
Absolutely.
To help people start companies and, grow their business. But to a large extent for us, of course, like the teaching aspect of it is a lot of the time it's free.
Right.
But the actual, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do this, like that's not free. And I don't make $15 an hour. Right. And so it's like, I don't begrudge anybody, like, go get your money, like by all means, except for Popeyes. Popeyes can't make $15.
What you gotta get Popeyes and the chicken sandwich and delicious chicken.
I mean,
and the wonderful customer service you always get when you go to Popeyes. Why are you acting like that?
I'm not even gonna get on I'm gonna focus on one issue today. First of all, they had a good run with the chicken sandwich this year.
It was good.
Okay, and then what happened was exactly what always happened. Y'all went there and they had no chicken today.
Well, they ran out because of the chicken.
I always run out of chicken. How you a chicken place and you never have chicken? Though? That's a bad business.
Here we go.
That's a bad business model. Like.
Or
the one thing I will say,
it increases demand.
No.
Or increases demand. I got you, Popeyes. I ain't even listening.
It decreases my demand. Because I don't want to wait in line for 30 minutes, first of all. Wow. So I get to the front of them, they're like, we ain't got no chicken. And I'm like, wait, no chicken? No, even better. It's going to be a 12-minute wait on chicken. Sir, all chicken, so it don't matter if I order a breast or chicken strips. You ain't got no chicken ready. Like, no. But all you sell is chicken. That's terrible.
Why are you acting like this, man?
Everybody else, y'all get y'all money, but Popeyes do better.
Anyway, but you're absolutely right, though. The market always adjusts, right? We've been talking about in the stock market, as far as like it's been a bull run for the past couple of years, and there may be a bear market, if you will, but the market, whether it be the stock market, $15 an hour, entrepreneurship, whatever the case may be, it always corrects itself. And any economist will tell you that.
Because it's designed, again, at that level, it's designed to keep us in a very socially stratified kind of situation.
Right.
And so, theoretically, what would happen is that other things adjust. Now, one of the interesting things that we saw is like over the last few decades, there hasn't been as big of an adjustment in the middle. And it's part of the reason why they talk about the middle class being squeezed so much, where it almost doesn't exist. Because what you don't see is a correlating increase, like, so let's say minimum wage goes to 15. Right. You don't see teachers start to make more money. You don't see, people who are in middle class kind of jobs, you don't see them necessarily start to make more money.
Right.
So when the cost of things goes up, it affects them, probably even more.
Gotcha. Well, Startup Nation, as you dive into your businesses for 2020, as you start new businesses, for those
Millicent got it. Exactly.
Here we go.
How you out of chicken at dinner time and the only thing you make is chicken? I can see if Popeyes sold burgers or some other kind of thing. Then you can be out of chicken. But if you only make chicken, that's just, you know what it is, and I'm being for real here. Mm-hmm. I think, honestly, you can see the difference in personally what the guy said about talent, right? Why you pay more for talent. Because I'll just be real. I feel like the breakfast spot, I don't know if you want to give them, I probably shouldn't even say they were a chicken place. I know. All right, so y'all know what it is. is who got the good customer service and, you know, and delicious chicken sandwich. You know, just a little thing. I mean, even like, yes. Y'all, you know where to go if you want, like, your food gonna be right. It's gonna be quick. If they mess something up, they gonna apologize and like offer to fix it for you. You got them free ice creams just cause Zoe was like impatient about her meal, you know, it hadn't even taken that long. Right. They still was like, you know. But I think I've always thought that was a management issue. You know, I think there's a way, and this is a, you know, pro tip from a business owners out here. You should be tracking. We have so much capability to use analytics. You don't even have to do it by hand anymore. That's true. But you could track your sales by number, by hour, by day, and a whole bunch of things. And it gives you the ability to start to be able to make predictions. So I would expect someone to know at this time of day, we can start. That's true. Pretty much making chicken continuously without a loss, that's right? True. And I get it. You don't want to end up with a whole bunch of stuff at the end of the night that you're going to have to throw away, or theoretically maybe even give to people as a perk, or give to the homeless and contribute to a social cause. Right. I mean, I think there's a lot of ways you can get creative about it. But at the same time, I think with some really clear and easy analytics, you can figure out when you can start making chicken pretty much continuously and people are going to be there to buy it. And then when you should shut it off and then maybe do it as you go. But during time when you know people are going to be coming, they're kind of in a hurry, they're trying to get home for dinner, and I'm just saying, like, I'm being real, I'm bragging on, you know, the one place, right? I could even narrow it down to a couple of locations, but the thing is, and the reason why I feel comfortable saying is, like, I think a lot of people have this experience, because what you don't want to do is have your brand be consistent for bad reasons. That's true. That's true. Well, there goes that Popeye sponsorship. Anyway, Startup Nation. So, I don't want Popeye sponsorship. Our stuff, we never gonna be on time. Stuff gonna be broken down. My point is, we wanted to share this story, Startup Nation, so you can start thinking about your business and your path to entrepreneurship. Because I see you at the spot. This is going to be a hot. Biscuit. This is going to be a hot topic going into 2020 when it comes to the presidential election and stuff like that. More and more places are starting to adopt the $15 minimum wage doctrine and stuff like that, which is kind of interesting, you know, real quick before we move on, because places like Seattle and Nashville, those places are becoming increasingly more expensive. So that $15 an hour may clearly get canceled out almost after you end up in a place where you can't afford to live there. Absolutely. Also, and I'm just going to say, whether you agree with me on the potential downside, and I'm not saying I'm against it or anything like that. I'm just saying you have to expect the reality of it. Even people who are selling you kind of this dream are not telling you the other side of this story, is that once that happens, this is also going to happen. Right. And unless you put yourself in a position, you're going to end up with the same sort of like struggles and stuff that you have now. But the other thing I say, if you disagree with me on the potential downside of it, then I'm gonna just give this PSA: you should vote. I mean, because there's a very clear reality that if certain things come to pass or continue, there's not going to be a federal 15 like law. It's not going to happen. You know, under, I'm going to say, the current Republican administration, I would argue, okay, and probably not under any future Republican administration. And so on the other side, though, Democrats who are kind of like, you know, propelling this and kind of getting behind it, once again, they're not telling you the other side of that story, which is that at the end of the day, the market corrects itself. And percentage wise, which is why they always kind of do that adjustment for inflation or whatever, right? And that's no matter who's in office. Exactly. That's true, right? No matter who's in office, the part that you really have to listen for is probably the boring part and you don't want to hear it. That's but that they always give that adjustment for inflation to kind of show you, yes, the number itself might be higher, right? But you're going to say it paid the same, maybe even a higher percentage in cost of living. And that means that at the end of the day, you can make more money and have a poorer standard of living. Right. So let us know what you think about $15 minimum wage in the comment section, because we need to move on. So I just want to touch on something really quickly. What's up? Can I touch on this real quick? Because Millicent brings up a point I did want to make also earlier. You also have to understand, like, expectations are going to, with higher pay. That is very true. There are going to be higher expectations. That is very true. Regardless of what I just said about like inflation and cost of, quality of living and all that. people are just going to expect you. I'll say this, like, but you want $15 an hour. It's like, I can't walk in here and then, I know this has happened to you before. You just drive up somewhere, they just look at you like I'm supposed to greet you.
Bruh, don't even get me started on that. Don't even get me started on that. Or my favorite. They don't say nothing.
Come on.
Like,
we
what?
have time for this. We have time for this. But it's
that's
like,
great customer
presumably, you raise the minimum wage, you get a better quality. Somebody, like the guy said in the video, feels better about themselves. They're going to give you extra customer service, and it all, in a perfect world, flows downhill and it's all positive, right?
Absolutely.
Not how it works, though.
That is true. That is very true. Thank you for that comment, Millicent. I really appreciate that. Fam always comes through.
She's been active on here too,
right? For sure.
Come on over the show.
So lastly, I thought, with, the passing of David Stern, if you don't know, David Stern, former NBA commissioner, passed away on January 1st from complications of brain hemorrhaging, stuff like that. And so if you
seem like you just lose a lot of people at the end of the year and the beginning.
It's just kind of crazy. But, but he had this for a while. Like, I think we knew about it like 3 weeks ago. So, just kind of crazy or whatever. But anyway, I wanted to talk about this because I've always admired David Stern from a business acumen standpoint. And I think Startup Nation and many people who aspire to be entrepreneurs can really learn a lot from David Stern's story. So when you think about David Stern, the NBA in 1984, and that's when he became commissioner, or whatever the case may be, the league was on the verge of bankruptcy. In the 70s, they had like a really bad drug problem and stuff like that. And I'm not going to sit up here and say he came and cleaned up the drug problem and stuff like that. But from a business standpoint, he really did grow the league. For starters, one of the biggest things, and everybody's been saying this, and it's so true, is that one of the biggest things he did was got the games off of tape delay. And that's basically they tape the game and then you watch it on the broadcast later or whatever. Can you imagine in today's NBA watching the NBA finals on tape delay? Like it happened like hours ago.
And then there'd be a lot of upset people.
Absolutely.
And the results would be like on social media 3 seconds before it happened.
Right.
And then it's just like, we want everything now and everything.
Right.
I don't even like, I think a lot of people just don't like the idea that somebody would know something or be able to experience something before they do. I think
that's true.
It's I don't know, it's antithetical to everything we kind of know about like wanting instant gratification.
Right. So, one of the things that, when it comes to his business act, because that was one of the biggest things he did to grow the league's revenue and stuff like that. For starters, in 1984, when he took over, the league was generating $150 million a year. When he left in 2014, it was at $5 billion.
Now, did part of this have to do with technology and the ability, like how many platforms you have to watch it on?
That was part of it, but not really. One of the greatest things that he understood. Now, granted, in the 80s, you had Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Michael Jordan, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what he understood at an early time when he took over was that this is a player-driven league, that you market the players. One of the things I've always been upset about with MLB is that they do a terrible job of marketing their players. David Stern understood in the 80s that in order to grow the league, you grow the personalities, you market the personalities. Like, I'm not saying he came over Air Jordan, but he marketed the hell out of it. Remember when we were kids and we watched the NBA? The NBA is fantastic, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all marketing and branding, or I love this game, right? And so he understood that. Another thing is that, like in 1984, the average player's salary was $300,000. Only 11 players at that time made over $1 million. When he left in 2014, the average salary was $4.5 million in the NBA. And so once again, just the genius of growing the game, stuff like that. One of the things he did, also we always taught him for growing the game globally. But one of the smartest things, that's one of the least known stories about David Stern, is that in the 80s, he reached out to a small Argentinian affiliate, right? And say, hey, pay us $2,000 a year, or it might have been $2,000 a month or something like that. And you just show NBA highlights in Argentina, right? And they took that deal, which even in '80s money is not a whole lot of money, right? You know, but the thing is, like now, when you think about the game and global, one of the biggest players was Manu Ginobili, who was Argentinian. He might have never played basketball if he had not seen those highlights. And so once again, you know, the marketing prowess that, you know, that we can all learn from Startup Nation is really genius when it comes to David Stern. And I was just, I was really sad to hear of his passing and stuff like that, but it reminded me of his legacy, his marketing genes and stuff like that. Now, there were a few things when it came to David Stern that, you can probably kind of knock him on. For starters, the fact that there's not a team in Seattle anymore. That's kind of a bad look. He also was over 4 lockouts. David Stern, as great as he was as a businessman, he was very, very stern, very like stubborn. There was 4. Okay. There was 4 lockouts. I remember, was it 99? There was the one in like the early 2010s and stuff like that. Stuff like that. But also one of the things he also gets criticized for is that the wardrobe rule he had. You know, it kind of like it targeted African Americans, stuff like that. But on the flip side of that, you know, under his tutelage, you had a lot of African American executives in the NBA. He created the G League. He also was very on the forefront of creating women in executive roles, stuff like that. He created the WNBA and stuff like that, all of that. So when we think about,
I think that was one of the interesting things, like, you know, almost like a lot of times, I think we do this as business owners. We have this idea, and it's a product, right? And I think there are certain commissioners who kind of have the idea of the NBA as a product, right? Mm-hmm. And there is a certain amount of like being content with $100 and something million, right? Like that's not anything to stop it, right? But I think he comes in and he looks at it as a brand, and he looks at it as a business that can be scaled, right? And so you get out of its comfort zone, this core product, and you build it into this suite of things. Absolutely, people, I love this game, right? And so there are other ways that we can play this game in other venues with other, with other people. And so, I definitely have to say that it speaks to what you were saying about like just the genius of just having vision.
Right, having vision. And now when you look at the NBA now, thinking about growing it globally, you know, they just started the All-Star voting, and the top 2 vote getters right now are both European players. Mm-hmm. You know, they came from Europe and stuff like that. But, you know, the vision, the foresight, and Startup Nation, you can really learn a lot from David Stern's story and stuff like that. So I really would tell you. Also, team valuations. Like back in the 80s, you talking about, like, you know, the LA Clippers, I can't even remember his name, that dude. He bought the Clippers for $10 million, but now there's not a team in the NBA that's not worth over $1 billion now, like all of them. So there's that. So we'll kind of move on, kind of wrap up for today. We hope you kind of like today's content about having fun with it. No, that's not what I wanted to play. That's not what I wanted this one. Yeah, because we got to wrap this thing up. We got to let people go and stuff like that. So before we go, I just want to talk really quickly about what you can expect. Because obviously, if you know, we're moving the show to radio here in Memphis, Tennessee, which we are really excited about. And we have some amazing guests coming on the show. For starters, we got Tom Golisano. I just got his book from his publicist today to kind of go through it. What? Oh, it probably is. It's fine. You know, you see it. We got Tom Golisano's book. We got the co-founder of Netflix got his book and stuff like that. So they're both to be coming on the show. Tons of value and stuff like that. And just so you know, even though it's going to be on the radio side, we're going to port it over to the podcast side so everybody can have access to that content. But we're really excited about it. We're going to do some live streaming during the radio show and stuff like that. We're going to do more of this with me and Kendra. We're going to bring on some guests and stuff like that. But it's a really exciting time to be part of Startup Nation, to listen to the Startup Life, to listen to Talk Startup that we started today. So before we cut out, is there anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to share?
I'll be on this show. Otherwise, in the background, I'm working on a book. So
that's true. She's writing a book now.
Fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So this is gonna be a good year, 2020. I'm so excited about it.
All right. So show if you're here in Memphis area, We're going to be on KWAM The Voice. You see the website there on the big board there. KWAM 990 or 107.9 FM. And so, unless we got anything else, I guess we're going to let people go.
Thank you guys for listening.
Absolutely. So we're going to leave you with a quote. And hey, if you want to be about that life, startup life. Let's go.
you.